All right, Daniel chapter number 11. Now, I know we've missed a couple of weeks due to weather. And so in Daniel chapter number 11, I will go ahead and apologize. Well, there's nothing to apologize about. But Daniel chapter number 11, there's about 45 verses in Daniel 11. And I'll just have to be honest. A lot of it is very dry. If you don't like history, you won't like Daniel chapter number 11. Now, once you get toward the latter part of Daniel chapter number 11, it starts getting really interesting because we start talking about future events. In Daniel chapter number 11, here's something I want to point out. I want you to remember in Daniel chapter number 2, I've tried my best to get a little better at drawing this image. This is the image that Nebuchadnezzar saw in Daniel chapter number 2. The head of gold was Babylon. The chest part was the Medes and the Persians. That was of silver. The loins was of bronze. It was Greece. And then that thing divided, two legs, Rome. There was the eastern, western division of Rome. And the reason I've got it drawn this way is because there's a gap. There's something that Daniel didn't see in the Old Testament, and that is the church age. That's where we are today. So there's a gap there. And then these legs pick back up in the tribulation period. So when Daniel's writing in Daniel chapter number 11, the first part, let's say 20 verses of Daniel 11, is prophecy to Daniel, but it's already passed for us. Does that make sense? Because Daniel's fixing to give us prophecy of the Medes and the Grecians having a war. Alexander the Great whoops the Persians and this, that, and the other. He takes over. Well, that's already happened. But if you're writing where Daniel's at, it's prophecy, you see. So that's where we're at. The first 20 verses were probably just, I'm going to read and comment, read and comment, read and comment. It's not a matter of it's not important. It's a matter of it's already happened, and if you listened in history class, you probably already know some of this stuff. If you didn't, then you can go back and research all of that out. You can find this information. But here's the interesting thing about a King James Bible. It is amazing to me that the history of all of this that's laid out, what they should have been teaching you in school, and the older you are, probably the closer to history you got, all of this has been laid out in that Bible, and it's an amazing thing, especially some of the future events after chapter number 21. Or not chapter 21, verse 21, when it starts talking about the Antichrist. There is more description. The Antichrist and Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ being the first. The majority of the description, Jesus Christ. The second most descriptive person in the Bible is the Antichrist. And you're going to get a lot of it tonight. Some of it may be wild. Some of it you say, well, man, all of that. Well, it's all in there. So let's look at chapter number 11. And let's look at verse number, let me back up and read verse 20 and 21 of 10 because it sort of goes together with chapter number 11. Verse 20 of chapter 10, then said he, knowest thou wherefore I come unto thee? And now will I return to fight with the prince of Persia. Remember we talked about the prince of Persia. And when I'm gone forth, lo, the prince of Greece shall come. Prince of Persia. When I'm gone, prince of Greece shall come. So all of this thing is prophetic. But those princes, remember we talked about the principalities of the air. Things in outer space that are controlling. Now you think, man, that's wild and crazy. Did you know that I read a report today? American Airlines, I don't know if you saw that, but American Airlines are saying and reporting they saw an unidentified flying object. As they were flying through the air, they saw something they could not identify in the air. And I was listening to talk radio. Usually especially if you're going to Jackson, whatever, you listen to talk radio, the whole conversation of talk radio, one of their main questions for callers to call in, do you believe in UFOs? And somebody would call in and say, oh, no, that's fiction, that's only television. And then somebody else would call in and said, oh, yeah, little green monsters and all of this. When I say UFOs, I've already clarified this before. I'm not talking about the little green monsters and their, coming down in this flying saucer and all this kind of thing. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the principalities of the air, the rulers of darkness in high places. Now, if you don't think they're out there, you've got your head in the sand and you're not looking. They're out there. And those things are controlling forces that control the kings of the earth. And if you hadn't figured it out yet, the god of this world, Satan, has blinded the minds, lest we come to the light of the gospel, 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse number 4. Anyway, so there we go. Now look at verse 1 of chapter 11. Also I, in the first year of Darius the Mede, so here we go. Darius the Mede and the Persians rule after Babylon, so here we go. First year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and strengthen him. So you got the angel of the Lord and Michael the archangel. The angel of the Lord strengthening Michael the archangel there. Verse 2, and now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by the strength through his riches he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. Now you look at this. Persia. You got 4 kings of Persia. The 4th one, that 4th king, probably Darius. Some people call him Darius, but it's Darius. The 4th, he's very rich, and he stirs up. You ever heard this phrase, boy, he done got stirred up. Somebody's got fighting mad, boy, he stirred up. Well, yeah, the Bible's out of date, ain't it? He knows what he's talking about. He got stirred up with Greece. That's who we're looking at right here. The realm of Grecia. Verse 3. And a mighty king shall stand up that shall rule with great dominion and do according to his will. Now, that person is one and only Alexander the Great. Notice he does according to his will. Alexander the Great is a type of the Antichrist. The Antichrist, remember, the devil in Isaiah 14, he says, I will ascend above the stars of God. I will this and that. I will. 5 times, I will. I'm going to do my will. Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane said, not my will, but thine be done. Satan said, I will, I will. Notice Alexander the Great, he does his will. All right, verse 4, and when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity. In other words, his heirs, his kids, did not take over. Normally, when a king dies, one of his kids, usually the firstborn, would take, and he would be the next heir of that. Well, it wasn't that way. Not to his posterity, according to his dominion which he ruled, for his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. Now, this kingdom, when Alexander the Great dies, no kids. Matter of fact, they'd already had gotten killed in war and all this kind of stuff. So his kingdom was divided into 4 regions. We've already talked about this in Daniel chapter number 8. In Daniel chapter number 8, Greece divides up, after Alexander the Great dies, divides up into 4 kingdoms, 4 generals. Alexander the Great had 4 generals. He didn't have any heirs, so 4 generals divided. 1 to the north, 1 to the south, 1 to the west, 1 to the east. If you want to look at that, turn back to 8. Chapter 8. and look at verse 8:8. 8:8 of Daniel. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. We just read that in Daniel 11. Notice verse 20. The ram which thou sawest, having two horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. And the rough goat is the king of Greece. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Now there being broken, wherefore four stood up for it. Four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power, and so on and so forth. And in the latter times, their kingdom, when the transgressors, so on and so forth. Basically what I want to show you, divided into four realms. If y'all remember, there's the he-goat. He had four horns coming out of his, those four generals split off and took over. The king of the south would be Egypt. King of Syria, north, the Turkey, Asia Minor, and I can't remember all four of them, but anyway, there you have it. Matter of fact, that might be a better rendering of it here. Let's see. We're talking about the land of Israel right there. The king of the north, straight up, Antioch, Syria. King of the south, Egypt, Greece, and this area over here, you've got Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey. So you've got Greece, Alexander the Great. When he died, four generals took over. One went south, took over Egypt. One went north, Syria, and you get the picture. They divided into those four. Now, look at verse 5 back in 11. And the king of the south, that's Egypt, shall be strong, and one of his princes, and he shall be strong above him and have dominion. His dominion shall be a great dominion. And in the end of years they shall join themselves together, for the king's daughter of the south shall come to the king of the north to make an agreement. Now, I'm not going to read all of this and bore you with a lot of details, but you've got the king of the south and the king of the north, Syria. They're fighting one another back and forth. Well, if you're fighting one another back and forth, guess where you have to go through to fight one another? The land of Israel. The land of Israel is suffered, and every battle that was fought between the king of the south and king of the north had to come through Israel, and Israel paid the cost of it. And then when you start talking about the daughter, this daughter down here married, the king's daughter down here married one of the king's daughters up there. They tried to make a peace treaty and so on and so forth. It's history, okay? In Daniel's day, it was prophecy. For us today, we're looking back, it's already happened. The king's daughter, you got Cleopatra. Y'all remember reading about her in Cleopatra? How many done forgot about her? You know, all that kind of thing. Let's see, look at verse 7. But out of a branch of her roots shall one stand up in his estate. The branch of her roots, the daughter, the branch of her roots. What that means is the branch of her roots, that's her mom and daddy. So her brother, the branch of her roots, her brother rose up and stood up in his estate, which shall come with an army, and shall enter into the fortress of the king of the north, and shall deal against them. So what you have in all of these first 20 verses, you've got the king of the south, king of the north, Syria. They're fighting against one another, and then they'll have peace. They have peace treaty. You know, somebody will go up there, and they sit at a round table, and people sign something. Now, let me help you. That goes on a lot. Even here in just recent days, the past president we had sat down, and boy, here we go, and people are signing stuff left and right. Now, don't get like this. Don't be like every time that happens, oh my goodness, we're in the tribulation. Or every time gas prices go up. Oh my goodness, we're in the tribulation. You know, every time, look, we're going to see some persecution before the tribulation takes place. I promise you, I guarantee you, by on the authority of God's word, the church is leaving out of here before the tribulation sets in. Are we going to see gas prices go up before the rapture? Yeah. Are we going to see some peace treaties signed between some folks? Yes. So every time, these guys, I get tickled at them, but they think I'm dumb and don't know nothing. But every time somebody, signs something, I mean, you've had people say Mussolini was the Antichrist. And some guy said, well, if Mussolini's not the Antichrist, I'll quit preaching tomorrow. Well, guess what? He wasn't the Antichrist. Yeah, all that kind of stuff, Yeah, I think Hillary probably would have made a good Antichrist. But look, I mean, she's not, okay? I'll prove that in just a minute. Even though she'd have made a good one, she's not, okay? So these first 20 verses are these back and forth, and Israel getting caught in the middle, all right? Now, here's something I want you to look at. Look down in verse number 20. Verse number 20. For those of you that are watching on, so, well, you're skipping a lot of verses. Well, I'll tell you, if you want to go verse by verse and study all that history out, help yourself, I've done it, and I got bored with it. Okay? Look at verse 20. Here's something caught my eye. Then shall stand up in his estate a raiser of taxes in the glory of the kingdom, Palestine, the nation of Israel. Somebody's going to raise up and be a raiser of taxes. But within a few days he shall destroy it neither in anger nor in battle. This fellow here was hurting for money, so he went into Israel, and he went into the temple where all the gold and all of the precious things of God that they used in their temple worship, and he took those for his own and raised taxes on the people. A raiser of taxes. So notice this guy, a few days, he should be destroyed, neither in anger nor in battle. So he didn't die in battle, and he didn't die in anger. This guy was poisoned. Miraculously, nobody knows how he died. Man, you better leave the things of God alone, and leave God's people alone. Raising taxes on people and making money for yourself, and anytime they want to shut down government, and so you can't go to work, but they get the same pay. Common sense would tell you, okay, our country is hurting. Your business is you're not able to do business, or you're not able to work. So I tell you what we're going to do. Just to be fair, we're going to cut our salary in half so we can be right in there with you. Because guess what? We're all in this together. That's a bunch of baloney. That ain't good baloney. Now, look at verse 20. Now, here's what I want to show you. All of that, first 20 verses is right back here, okay? 20 verse history. Again, it was prophecy for Daniel. Because Daniel's looking this way, it was all prophecy to him. For us, it's already happened. Now, there's a gap. Verse 20, back here. Verse 21 skips and starts over here. And from 21 all the way to 45 verses, you're going to get a big description. I don't know if we'll get all of it, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of, watch this. Look at verse 21. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. flatteries from the basement. And with the arms of a flood, arm, if I was a leader, and my armies, with a flood shall they be overflown from before him, and shall be broken, yea, also the prince of the covenant. And after the league, that's another word for agreement, covenant, made with him, he shall work deceitfully, for he shall come up and shall become strong with a small people. At first, when he shows up, he's going to have a small backing. Verse 24, he shall enter peaceably, even upon the fattest places of the province, and he shall do that which his fathers have not done, nor his fathers' fathers. He shall scatter among them the prey, and the spoil, and the riches, yea, and he shall forecast his devices against the strongholds, even for a time. Now, Revelation talks about time, times, and half a time. So a time would be probably for a year. Notice the forecast, his devices. I've got all kind of devices up here. We got devices that control us. iPhone, iPad, iMac, the all-seeing eye of devices. The Apple, which, I mean, hey, that Apple on your iPhone's got a bite out of it. Isn't that something? Ain't that something? But, hey, it's out of date, folks. This is out of date. It's more in date than you would think. Now, let me pause and say this. Let's see, look at Daniel 8 and verse 25. Look at that real quick. Daniel 8 and verse 25. Talking about this same vile person. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand. And he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Now, here's something I want to show you. Take your Bible real quick and hold your place in Daniel because we're coming right back, but look at Revelation 6. Revelation 6. In Revelation 6, while you're finding Revelation 6, remember, this vile person is going to stand up. He's going to come in peaceably, obtain the kingdom by flatteries. Okay, watch this. Revelation 6, the first seal, verse 2. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, so you've got the white horse rider. That's not the Lord Jesus Christ. That's the Antichrist. Notice he has a bow with no arrow. What does that mean? That means he comes in peace. He's got a bow and no arrow. A bow pulls back with 3 fingers. Okay? Peace. You ever seen anybody do that? He's got a bow but no arrow. He comes in peace. That guy in Daniel 11 comes in peaceably. This guy, this first horse rider that comes in the first seal, first tribulation, he comes in peace, peace. Peace in the Middle East. That second horse rider is a red horse rider. He's going to break that peace treaty, and he's going to kill him with a sword. And if you'll notice, I ain't got time to do a whole thing on Revelation 6, but that third horse rider is a black horse rider, and he's got a scale and balances in his hand. A measure of, what does it say? verse 5. And when he'd opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see, and behold, lo, a black horse, and he that sat upon him had a pair of balances in his hand. And with a voice in the midst of the four beasts, saying, A measure of wheat for a penny, 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil in the wine. All right, that's socialism. Socialism, coming to the tribulation, coming to a city near you. Peace, peace at first. Kill them, make them submit, make them. Boy, I could go into a lot of submit. We're concerned with your health. And we need you to do what we say. We ain't got time. We do not have time. Look, people, let's just be honest. The government's not they're not concerned about your health. They could care less about your health. If they was worried about your health, they'd shut down every McDonald's. Because those and every Sonic, them double cheeseburgers with cheese, and I'm talking about that hamburgers like this, causing everybody in the world a heart attack. More people have died of heart attack and cancer. But you eat all the cheeseburgers you want. But remember, we are concerned about your health. That's baloney. I mean, I'm getting mad about that. Submit, that third horse rider, Miss Judy's done got mad and least. She's going to she's going to Sonic. And then that black horse rider, socialism. A penny. Gas prices go sky high. That penny won't go, that dollar you got in your pocket won't go as far as it did 20 years ago. And then that pale horse rider, that's what you're having to look at. But that first guy, this is all the same person. He just changes horses. He starts off with a white horse, black horse, or red horse, black horse, pale horse. He's all the same rider. He just changes horses. And that's the same vile person that's in Daniel 11. Now let's go back there and look. I'm rushing, but you get the picture, I think. Look at verse Daniel 11. Look at verse 25. And he shall stir up his power, his courage against the king of the south, Egypt, with a great army. And the king of the south shall be stirred up to battle with a very great and mighty army. But he shall not stand, for they shall forecast devices against him. They. I want you to notice and underline they. You'll notice in verse 31, and arms shall stand on his part, and shall pollute the sanctuary in strength, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination that maketh desolate. Matthew 24. They. You'll have verse 39. Thus shall he do in the most strongholds, with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory, and he shall cause them to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. I want you to notice they. This white horse rider, this beast, this Antichrist has 10 kings. These 10 toes. I know it don't look like toes, but these are the 10 toes on the end of Daniel's image. And there is one guy. He comes from the king of Syria. We've already dealt with that in Daniel 8. He's going to be an Assyrian Jew, just like Judas Iscariot. And this Assyrian Jew that betrays the Lord Jesus Christ is going to have 10 kings. that are strange gods over 10 kingdoms. This is where iron mixes with clay. Iron mixed with clay. Iron mixed with clay. Robots. Strange gods. Now we've got to where we talk to Echo. We talk to Siri. Siri. What's the other one? Alexa. And they're listening. Now, look, the technology, I love technology. I love using this. It makes teaching a whole lot better. And you can use it right. But strange gods, the principalities of the air, iron mixed with clay. Remember in Daniel 10 where we talked about the king of Persia, and there was a fallen angel, or those fallen angels that worked for Satan, the principalities of the air, that was a representation in heaven over these kings and over these countries. Well, these 10 kings, iron mixed with clay, isn't that odd? Those 10 kings are found in Revelation, we won't have to go there, but Revelation 13, Revelation 17, the 10 kings. This beast had 7 heads, 10 horns, and the 10 horns are 10 kings with crowns. Those are the 10 toes of Daniel, chapter 2. These 10 guys, they work for the Antichrist, that vile person. They're iron mixed with clay. They're not human. Now, you're thinking, now, preacher, you're going way out there. Listen, how many of y'all would have thought 50 years ago, there's coming a day when everybody's going to have cell phones and it's going to be able to, you just talk to it and it's going to be, told our grandparents, great-grandparents that, they'd have said, now, preacher, you're going too far. That's way too far out there. Right? So don't think, unidentified, and again, not talking about your little green Martians and all of that. We got cameras up there right now trying to find life on Mars, seeing if there's anything out there. We got a space force now. Why do you need a space force if there's nothing out there? They've got a camera. They showed it. It's a live feed, and they're showing what's on Mars. And the only thing they could find was a dollar store that was built over there. Nothing, nobody around, but there's a dollar store out there. That woke everybody up, didn't it? But you'd be surprised at and I'll be honest, we love sitting at home watching and maybe we shouldn't, I don't know, I'm intrigued by that stuff. As long as it's on television. I don't care about being in no seance or nothing like that. As long as I can watch it on television where they go into this place, they set up cameras, and it's a haunted castle or it's a haunted, an old prison, abandoned prison, and they're, this, that, and the other, and something's moving. And now, some of that's all television. But don't you think for a minute that some of that stuff ain't real. And I can promise you this, it's not somebody that hung themselves in a jail cell and they never figured out who done it, and so that guy's going to be haunting this prison until they solve his murder, and then his spirit will be released. That's baloney. Them things that are in those places like that are those principalities of the air that control things, and I'm telling you, they're here. And you can call them UFOs if you want to. I don't care. They are unidentified. but they control more on this earth than you might want to give credit to. Oh, yeah. What was that? What did you say? That very well possibly could be. I am probably, no doubt. Look at verse 27, Daniel 11. Notice I'm just hitting these high points. I'm trying to get all of this description of the Antichrist. And both these kings' hearts shall be to do mischief, and they shall speak lies at one table. But it shall not prosper, for yet the end shall be at the time appointed. They shall speak lies at the table. Isn't that something? Can you imagine how many lies is told around a table of foreign leaders? Anyway, this is what will happen. Verse 28, then shall he return into his land with great riches, and his heart shall be against the holy covenant. Daniel 9:26. And he shall do exploits and return to his own land. And at the time appointed he shall return and come toward the south. And it shall be as the former, as the latter, and so on and so forth. The ships of Chittim, possibly those are going to be, you're going to have some activity from Russia. The ships from Russia that come against him. Therefore he shall be grieved and return and have indignation against the holy covenant. There it is again. So shall he do. He shall even return and have intelligence. CIA, FBI. How much talk have you heard about intelligence? We've got to get intelligence. That Bible's not as outdated as we might think. Intelligence. Intelligence from who? With them that would you be surprised if the Air Force, some of that, the higher, I'm talking about the high ups. They know more about what's out there than the outer space than you might think. Just because you hadn't seen it on television don't mean it's not so. They let you know what they want you to think. Intelligence from outer space. Verse 31, and the arms shall stand on his part, and they shall pollute the sanctuary and strength, shall take away the daily sacrifice. In the nation of Israel, they're going to take away their worship, their daily sacrifice that they do, this Antichrist and his system, and shall take away the daily sacrifice, and they shall place the abomination, maketh desolate, and they, them 10 kings, them 10 strange gods, iron mixed with clay. Let's get down here. Look at verse 36. This is a lot of information. Verse 36, and the king shall do according to his will. That's the Antichrist. And he shall exalt himself. There he is. And magnify himself above every god. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. And shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods. And shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that is determined shall be done. The Antichrist is going to prosper. He's going to bring in a new world order. He's going to bring in a new world currency, a new world government, a new world religion. And he's going to prosper by doing that. What separates us from others of the world is our money system, our currency, who owes who owns who, and that kind of thing. Illegal immigration, hey, This thing, the new world, you won't need boundaries and walls anymore. We're going to be one. Don't that sound all just warm and fuzzy? That system is going to prosper. No more Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, no more churches on every street corner. It's going to be one church. And it's a satanic church run by the Antichrist. And if you don't go to his church, you don't go. And if you're caught having church, these Israelites and these people are trying to endure to the end. If you're caught in your basement having another worship service other than one that's sanctioned by the government, they'll kill you. We're already, look, folks, I hate to keep beating this horse, but we're still over here, and the rapture hadn't took place yet, and we're already seeing remnants of that. If they could have their way right now, they'd come in and take over this church and every church that you can think of, no matter what denomination. They'll come in and take it over. They want to. And just like that, they shut down 3/4 of the churches for several months. Just by like that. And most of the churches run and hid under a blanket somewhere. That was just a test run to see what the church would do. If they'd stand up and fight, or if they'd go run behind the corner somewhere. Oh, but I don't know if we got time for 37. Y'all may not be ready for 37. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers. The Antichrist is Jewish. He will not regard the God of his fathers. The God of his father, his Jewish heritage, he will not regard the God of his fathers. Look at the next statement. Nor the desire of women. You got an Antichrist. Y'all not ready for this? And this is not politically correct. But I never have been. This guy's a Jew, an Assyrian Jew, just like Judas. And he has no desire for women. If he has no desire for women, we're headed that direction. We've just had some run for office here in the last little bit. And they got further than I thought they'd get. Isn't that something? Now, I can tell it's a little tense in here because people don't like to talk about that kind of stuff, but look, it's going that direction. No desire for women. So, it ain't going to be too long if the Lord if the Lord tarries his coming, it won't be too long. You go in the grocery store and they won't be but one bathroom. There won't be no more, the little man on the door and then the woman over here, and you can tell the difference because, they look different. If you can't read men and women, you know which bathroom to go in because they paint them different or they have the emblem different. Boy, there's a lot I could say. If a man has a desire for a woman, they would call me what? Straight. What's the opposite of straight? Why don't they call them crooked? Call it what it is. Is the internet still on? Have we done blowed it up? How about YouTube won't let me put this one on? They'll fact check this one. nor the desire of women, nor regard any God. For he shall magnify himself above all. And let me hit verse 38, and let me hit this verse 38, because I know we can't get it all. But look at verse 38. But in his estate shall he honor the God of forces, and a God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold, silver, and with precious stones and pleasant things. There's a bunch I'm going to say right here in verse 38, but do you know at the judgment seat of Christ, a saved person, judgment seat of Christ, a saved person, we stand before the judgment seat of Christ. All our works are done, and what we present to Jesus Christ will be classified as gold, silver, precious stones. The devil always duplicates what God does. And to give honor to the Antichrist in the tribulation period, gold, silver, precious stones, pleasant things. Y'all see the resemblance? Notice, but in his estate shall he honor the God of forces. The God of forces. What is the God of forces? The God of forces. A force field. In this tribulation, a force field that the Antichrist controls. A force field that protects. And that's why the Antichrist, in Revelation 12, and the dragon fought with Michael the archangel, God of forces, Michael the archangel. You ever notice that Michael the archangel is the one that showed up over here fighting the prince of Persia? Michael the archangel wasn't fighting somebody like Alexander the Great with flesh and blood. The prince of Persia was a force. Y'all see that? In this tribulation period, there's going to be some stuff going on that you're going to have the forces of God versus the forces of evil. The fallen angels of the dragon. These 10 kings, iron mixed with clay, non-human. It's wild stuff. I mean, that stuff is just, anyway, principalities of the air.